Imagine, like, the most ruthlessly effective, politically savvy person in your office or your industry.
Oh, yeah. We all know at least one.
Right. I mean, the one who just always seems to emerge totally spotless from every single corporate disaster.
Yeah, they just dodge it all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They effortlessly manage upward, and they just never, ever get caught in the petty crossfire of daily drama.
It's like a superpower.
It really is. And you might think, they've been reading the latest Silicon Valley leadership blogs or taking these hugely expensive executive coaching courses.
Sure, yeah.
But what if their entire playbook was actually written back in 1647 by a Spanish Jesuit priest?
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. So welcome to today's deep dive, where we are cracking open Baltasar Gracián's masterpiece, The Pocket Oracle and Art of Prudence.
That's a great text.
And specifically, we're looking at a curated selection from that text with a title that basically tells you exactly what you're in for. It's called How to Use Your Enemies.
Yeah, it's a title that really doesn't pull any punches.
Not at all.
And frankly, neither does the actual text. It's really great to be diving into this material with you today.
Yeah, glad to have you here.
So just for some context, Baltasar Gracián was born in Aragon, Spain in 1601.
Okay.
And he was writing for this world of just intense courtly intrigue.
Right, like real Game of Thrones stuff.
Exactly. We're talking about a time of absolute monarchs, whispers in stone hallways, where a single misstep in social etiquette or like a misplaced word to the wrong duke didn't just mean you got a bad performance review. I mean, it could literally mean exile or death.
Wow. High stakes.
Very. But what makes this text so unsettling and honestly so vital for you to understand is how perfectly his observations on human psychology just map onto our modern high-stakes environments.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that is exactly the mission for this deep dive. We are extracting this timeless, highly pragmatic, and let's be honest, slightly Machiavellian wisdom.
Definitely a bit ruthless.
Yeah. We're looking at how Gracián advises you to manipulate human nature, bulletproof your reputation, and turn active malice into leverage.
Right.
And the foundation of his whole philosophy really starts with how you control the flow of information.
It does.
Because he argues that survival in the social jungle requires this almost obsessive control over how other people perceive you.
Yeah, Gracián advocates for a strategy of deliberate mystery.
Mystery.
Yeah, he writes, and I quote, "Cautious silence is the refuge of good sense."
Cautious silence.
Exactly. He advises the reader to essentially imitate divinity's way of doing things.
Wait, act like a god?
Basically. I mean, think about how a deity operates in mythology, right?
Okay.
They rarely explain their motives, they keep mortals guessing, they keep them alert.
Oh, I'll see.
Gracián says that if you openly declare your decisions or your processes, you strip away your own authority and you just open yourself up to immediate criticism.
Everyone can see your playbook.
Right. And furthermore, if you announce what you're going to do and then you fail, you're punished twice.
Oh, that makes sense.
You're punished once for the actual failure and then once for the public embarrassment of missing the target that you so loudly painted on the wall.
So it's really about eliminating the surface area for attack.
Exactly.
And he takes this control of perception even further when discussing how we interact with the people we're actively helping.
Yes.
He says you want people to depend on you, not to be grateful to you.
Right.
Which is, he uses this incredibly brutal metaphor. He says, an orange, once squeezed, is tossed in the mud.
It's a harsh visual, but yeah.
So the idea being, once you quench someone's thirst, they just turn their back on the fountain.
Basically.
He even advises keeping royalty in need of you. But isn't this essentially telling us to turn ourselves into a human subscription model?
A subscription model.
Yeah, you never hand over the full source code or the full software. You just give the client enough access to keep them paying the monthly fee.
Yeah.
Isn't that just a bit toxic?
Well, the subscription model analogy gets us part of the way there, but we really need to push it further to understand his psychology.
Sure.
Because in software, the goal is eventually getting the users so comfortable they just stop thinking about the subscription altogether.
Right, it just auto-renews.
Exactly. Gracián wants the absolute opposite.
Really?
Yeah. He wants the person to be acutely aware that you could cut off their access at any moment.
Oh, wow.
What's fascinating here is his view of human nature. He's operating from this profound, somewhat dark realism.
Yeah.
He points out a fundamental law of human behavior, which is that hope remembers, but gratitude forgets.
Man, that completely flips our whole modern corporate culture on its head.
It really does.
Because we are constantly taught the value of practicing gratitude, right? Like thanking our mentors or our clients for their past business.
Right.
But Gracián is basically saying that gratitude is just looking in the rearview mirror. Yeah. It has zero forward momentum.
Exactly. Gratitude is a backward-looking emotion.
Yeah.
It's based on a transaction that has already concluded. Once the orange is squeezed, the utility of the relationship is just gone.
Tossed in the mud.
Right. And for Gracián, once utility vanishes, harmony and esteem quickly follow.
Because they don't need you anymore.
Exactly. Hope, however, hope is a forward-looking engine.
Yeah.
It relies on an ongoing future need. So by maintaining the slight continuous dependence, you actually protect the relationship.
That is so counterintuitive.
It is, but it prevents the other person from discarding you. And paradoxically, that mutual need preserves the social piece.
You aren't leaving them out in the cold, you just aren't giving them the master key to the house.
Precisely.
But that introduces a highly volatile risk.
How so?
Well, if maintaining dependence gives you leverage, how does that dynamic shift when the person depending on you holds your paycheck, when it's your boss? Because Gracián identifies outshining a superior as the single most dangerous mistake you can make.
Yeah, and it was a literal matter of life and death in a 17th century court.
Right.
Today, it's just the fastest way to get managed out of an organization.
For sure.
Gracián states flatly that all triumphs are despised by someone, but triumphing over your superior is fatal.
Fatal.
Yeah. A boss can stomach you having better luck or maybe, a better temperament, but they can never tolerate you having greater ingenuity.
He actually refers to outshining your boss's intellect as a crime of lese majesty.
Yes.
Which historically meant treason against the sovereign.
Exactly.
But let's ground this in a modern scenario.
Okay.
Say you're at a startup.
Right.
You're an associate, and you are in a high-stakes board meeting with your CEO.
Happens all the time.
You wrote the pitch deck, you ran all the financial models, and then the investors ask a tough question, the CEO fumbles, and you have the perfect answer.
Oh, a classic trap.
Gracián is saying you have to hide your brilliance there.
Completely.
He uses this beautiful visual metaphor. He says the stars are children of the sun, and though they shine brightly, they never compete with the sun in all its radiance.
Right.
But practically speaking, how do you advance your career if you are constantly acting as like a human teleprompter for a CEO who just isn't as smart as you? Like, you're the best player on the team, but you have to pass to a captain who can't shoot.
That is the core tension, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Gracián isn't telling you to be incompetent. He's telling you to be invisible in your competence.
It's visible.
If you jump in and answer the investor's question better than the CEO, you might win a nod from the board.
Sure.
But you've just humiliated the sovereign in public.
You've committed lese majesty.
Exactly. So Gracián's tactic here is incredibly subtle. He says you must hide your advantages with a touch of carelessness.
Okay, but how does that actually look in practice?
Well, if you need to course correct your boss, you don't present it as a brilliant new insight that they were just too slow to grasp.
Right.
You present it as if you are simply reminding them of something they already knew but had momentarily forgotten.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. You say something like, as you mentioned in our prep meeting yesterday, the financial models show.
So you feed them the line, but you attribute the genius to them.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing long-term survival over short-term ego.
Got it.
The discredit that comes from threatening your superior heavily outweighs the momentary applause of just showing off.
That makes total sense.
Right. If your goal is to eventually become the CEO, humiliating the current one is a terrible opening move. You let them have the radiant sunlight while you secretly consolidate your actual power in the background.
All right, so you've placated the boss by playing the background star.
Yep.
But what about the rest of the ecosystem?
The peers.
Yeah. The peers, the cross-functional teams, the subordinates. For them, Gracián says we have to become incredibly adaptable.
We do.
We have to find everyone's weak spot, or what he calls their predilection.
Yeah, he calls this the art of moving people's wills.
Moving their wills.
Gracián believes everyone idolizes something, and it usually falls into one of three buckets.
Okay, what are they?
Esteem, self-interest, or pleasure.
Wow, okay.
And notice that these are base motives. They're not noble ones.
Right.
But once you figure out what someone's base motive is, you essentially have the cheat code to their behavior.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. He uses this great line. He says, it's easy to kill a bird that flies straight, but not one that twists and turns.
Such a vivid image.
It is. And he advises us to be a discreet Proteus.
Right, the sea god.
Yeah, in Greek mythology, Proteus was the shape-shifting sea god who would just constantly change his form to avoid being pinned down.
Exactly.
Gracián is telling you to tune your temperament to whomever you're dealing with. Be serious with the serious, jovial with the jovial.
Mirror them.
Yeah. And this even extends to how you reject people. He introduces this concept of the gilded no.
The gilded no.
Yeah, he says you never just flat out refuse someone.
Right, because a blunt no creates instant resentment.
It really does.
The gilded no is about letting disappointment sink in gradually. It's the art of the soft landing.
Okay, let's role play that.
Sure.
Say a peer from another department sends you this urgent email asking you to take on a massive chunk of their project.
Worse.
Right, and you do not have the time, and honestly, it won't help your career at all.
Okay.
A blunt no makes an enemy. So how do you gild it?
Well, you start by validating their premise.
Okay.
You say, this is a brilliant initiative, and I absolutely see the value.
Stroke the ego.
Exactly. Then you introduce a systemic roadblock that removes you as the bad guy. Unfortunately, my bandwidth is currently locked by the Q3 deliverables the board mandated.
Blame the board.
Always. And finally, you leave a crumb of hope.
With Krumiko.
Right. You say, let's revisit this next quarter, or I can share some templates that might help you get started.
Wow. So you haven't done the work, but you've preserved their ego.
Exactly. A gilded no satisfies far more than a blunt, begrudging yes.
It makes sense strategically. But, I have to push back here looking at this holistically. Playing the background star for your boss, acting as a discreet Proteus for your peers,
Yeah.
constantly finding people's weak spots.
Yeah.
It sounds utterly
Yeah,
exhausting.
this take effort.
It's like being a method actor 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
If you are constantly shape-shifting to mirror everyone else's base desires, isn't there a massive risk of just hollowing yourself out?
Yeah.
Like, how do you even know who you actually are?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that fear of losing our authentic selves is actually a very modern anxiety.
Really?
Yeah. Gracián views this entirely differently. He doesn't see this as compromising your soul. He sees it as mastering your environment.
Mastering the environment.
He writes that a good manner is a winning trick. In his view, substance alone is never enough.
Right.
Circumstance and delivery dictate success. So you aren't changing your core values. You are simply changing your interface.
Changing your interface. I like that.
Yeah, think of it like a universal power adapter. If you plug a device into a European outlet using an adapter, the device hasn't lost its identity, right?
No, it's still a laptop or whatever.
Exactly. It's just using the necessary interface to draw power without blowing a fuse.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Gracián views emotional intelligence, adaptability, and even flattery as interfaces that get you out of tight situations. It's a mechanism for navigating a hostile world, not a definition of who you are in the dark.
That distinction between the interface and the core self is crucial.
It is.
And it perfectly sets up the next dynamic because, okay, we've mirrored our colleagues, we've stroked the boss's ego.
We've done the work.
But what happens when the hostility isn't just a byproduct of office politics? What about the people who actively, truly want to see you fail?
The real enemies.
Right. Which brings us to the core thesis of this selection. How to use your enemies.
And this is where Gracián's brilliance really shines because it's deeply counterintuitive.
Yeah.
He advises you to take hold of things by the hilt, which defends, rather than by the blade, which wounds.
Okay.
And he applies this directly to envy and malice.
Yeah, he drops an absolute bombshell of a quote here.
Let's hear it.
He says, "Enemies are of more use to the wise than friends are to the fool."
So good.
And he claims that ill will can actually level mountains of difficulty that goodwill would just balk at.
Yeah.
It's essentially treating your haters like free, highly motivated QA testers for your life's code.
QA testers.
Yeah, quality assurance. They are out there constantly trying to find the bugs in your software. And instead of getting angry, you just read their bug reports and patch your code.
The QA tester analogy works to a point, but we really need to push back on it to see Gracián's full picture.
Okay, why?
Because QA testers ultimately want your software to ship successfully.
Right, that's true.
Your enemies want it to crash and burn.
Good point.
So you aren't just casually reading bug reports, you are actively neutralizing a threat.
Okay.
Gracián points out that flattery from friends conceals our flaws.
Because they love us.
Exactly. Friends love us, so they overlook our shortcomings. But an enemy's malice acts as a truthful mirror.
A truthful mirror.
Yes, an enemy is highly motivated to find every single crack in your armor. They will point out your defects with absolute surgical precision.
And his concept of revenge is just icy.
Oh, completely.
He says the ultimate revenge against envy isn't to fight back in the mud, which just validates their attack.
Right.
It's to use your merit to torment them. You make your good fortune their poison.
Yes.
He has this wildly poetic line. He says, "Fame's trumpet is a sentence to hang by envy's anxious rope."
That is just incredible writing.
Right. You basically let your undeniable success slowly drive them crazy.
Exactly.
But he balances this ruthlessness with a massive warning.
Yes, very important.
He says, never break off relations violently. Former friends make the absolute worst enemies.
Because a former friend knows where all your bodies are buried. They have the insider knowledge to destroy you. He actually cites Aesop's fable about the eagle and the beetle to illustrate this.
Oh, right, the fable.
Yeah, so the eagle wronged the beetle, assuming the beetle was far too small and insignificant to ever retaliate.
Right.
But the beetle followed the eagle, found its nest, and destroyed the eagle's eggs, even when the eagle tried to hide those eggs in the lap of the god Jupiter.
Just relentless.
Totally.
Yeah.
The psychological mechanism Gracián is exposing is that no enemy is too small to cause catastrophic damage if they are sufficiently motivated by a violent public falling out.
Right, so you can't just rely on outranking someone to keep you safe.
Right.
But surely a good, honest friend, someone who actually has your best interests at heart, is better than relying on a hater for feedback.
You would think so.
Gracián's approach forces you into a state of continuous paranoia.
Well, Gracián would agree that a true, wise friend is the greatest asset in life.
Okay,
He calls a friend a second self and says a life without friends is a desert.
that's beautiful.
It is, but he is a supreme realist about human nature. He knows that distance removes friends' defects, and because friends are subjective, their praise can make us soft.
Oh, I see.
We get comfortable, we stop growing.
Yeah.
Enemies force us into a state of hypervigilance. They enforce continuous self-improvement because you know they're watching for you to stumble.
It's not a warm, fuzzy way to live.
Not at all. But it is a highly effective evolutionary pressure. It forces you to make your armor impenetrable.
So, what does this all mean? Which brings us to the end game.
Right.
You've read the room, you've survived the boss's ego, you've weaponized the criticism of your enemies.
You're exhausted, but you're alive.
Exactly. So how do you play the long game without eventually burning out or being destroyed by the sheer friction of it all?
Right.
Gracián lays out some fascinating strategies for action, delegation, and eventually the graceful exit. Let's start with delegation.
Okay.
Because he doesn't just mean delegating work, he explicitly means delegating blame.
Yes. He advises you to do the popular things yourself and use others for the unpopular things.
Right.
He says you must have a fall guy, a shield, to deflect the blows of the disgruntled.
Okay, but how do you actually do that in a modern setting without just being a toxic, finger-pointing coworker?
Well, it's about leveraging institutional structures rather than individuals.
Oh.
In a modern corporation, you don't necessarily point at Bob in accounting and say, it was his fault.
Poor Bob.
Right. Instead, you use an intermediary body. You let legal be the bad guy.
Well, I've seen that happen.
We all have. You let compliance deliver the rejection, or you rely on the algorithm or the budget committee.
That's so smart.
You preserve your personal goodwill with the client or the peer, while the faceless institution absorbs all their anger.
That is spectacularly Machiavellian.
Truly.
But he balances that external manipulation with some really profound internal psychology regarding effort.
He does.
He says we should undertake easy things as if they were hard, and hard things as if they were easy.
It's brilliant cognitive framing.
How so?
Think about the mechanism here. If you treat an easy task as if it requires immense effort, you prevent carelessness, right?
Yeah.
You prevent overconfidence and those sloppy mistakes that actually derail careers.
That makes sense.
Conversely, if you treat a massive, complex project as if it's simple, you prevent your brain from becoming paralyzed by anxiety.
Oh, wow.
It regulates your emotional output so you are never overwhelmed and never underprepared.
He also discusses the strategic value of doing absolutely nothing.
Which is so hard to do.
It is. He uses this metaphor.
Yeah.
A spring's water is easily muddied, but you don't clear it by trying to filter it or frantically scooping the mud out.
No.
You clear it by just leaving it alone.
Exactly, because the urge to constantly intervene, to send another email, to clarify, to meddle in a conflict,
Yeah.
it often just stirs the mud back up, Time and silence are often the best clarifying agents.
And then finally he talks about the exit.
The exit.
He says to quit whilst fortune is smiling. A graceful retreat is as important as a brave assault. He writes, don't wait until everyone laughs when the racehorse falls in mid-race.
Such a great quote.
It really is. I always liken this to a gambler at a casino.
Oh, yeah.
You're up $1,000, the lights are flashing, the drinks are free. Gracian's is the guy tapping his watch saying, cash out right now.
Totally.
But why is it human nature to keep rolling the dice when we're up? How do we train ourselves to walk away?
This raises an important question about the human ego.
Okay.
When we are winning, our ego tells us that we have fundamentally altered the laws of probability through our own sheer brilliance.
Oh, I felt that.
Right. We stop seeing it as fortune and we start seeing it as destiny.
Wow.
But Gracián reminds us that true power is not just acquiring status or wealth. It is knowing how to parcel it out and knowing when to walk away.
Yeah.
We must, as he says, know our lucky days, but we also must realize that fortune is notoriously fickle. As he warns, fortune quickly grows tired of carrying someone on its shoulders.
So training yourself to walk away requires suppressing the ego's desire for the applause of the moment
Exactly.
and replacing it with the intellect's desire for lasting security.
Spot on.
When we look back at all of this, from controlling information with cautious silence, to outmaneuvering the boss by hiding our shine,
Yeah.
to adapting our interface like a discreet Proteus, and using our enemies to bulletproof our lives.
It's a lot.
It is. But Gracián's 1647 advice isn't about being evil.
No.
It's about clear-eyed survival. It's relying on intellect over emotion, controlling the narrative, and recognizing that every single obstacle, even an enemy, is a tool for leverage if you hold it by the hilt instead of the blade.
It really is a masterclass in defensive driving for the human experience.
Defensive driving, I like that.
But as we wrap up, we do need to bridge all this tactical advice to the ultimate cost of living this way.
Okay, the costs.
Because if you spend your whole life acting as a Proteus, managing upward, and keeping everyone at a slight dependent distance, you risk a profound sense of isolation.
Yeah, that sounds lonely.
Gracián actually anticipated this, which is why there is one final, unexplored rule from the text that is really worth pondering long after this discussion ends.
What is it?
He states plainly, you will never belong entirely to someone else, nor they to you.
Wow, that is a heavy pivot.
It is. He insists that even with ties of blood or the absolute deepest friendship, you must conceal things from some that you reveal to others.
Really?
Yes. He says there is a massive difference between opening your heart and surrendering your will.
Oh, man.
So the provocative question I'd leave you with is this.
Okay.
We live in a modern culture that constantly demands 100% vulnerability.
Right. All the time.
We are told to bring our whole authentic selves to work, to overshare on the internet, to bare our souls just to be relatable.
Yeah.
But is Gracián right? Is the secret to true autonomy actually keeping a piece of your soul entirely hidden, even from those you love most?
Because if you give everyone the master key, you just don't have a house of your own anymore. We started this deep dive talking about how muddy and complicated our modern ecosystems are.
Right.
And how we're all just trying to navigate them without getting squeezed and tossed in the mud like Gracián's orange.
Yep.
Maybe keeping a piece of yourself just for yourself isn't cynical. Maybe it's how you survive intact.
I think so.
Well, thank you for joining us today on this deep dive. And until next time, try applying just a little bit of that 17th century shrewdness to your day.